Efficiency Unlocked is hosted by two tech-savvy physicians and dear friends of mine, Doctors Carewe and Dale Gold, who are experts in using technology to automate routine tasks and increase efficiency in everyday and business life. Let's see what they have for us today.
My favorite part of those commercials is, "That's not a Buick."
Listeners, that's our NerdMD friend Holly. You'll have to listen to the whole episode to hear that whole soundbite. But we're going to flip the script this week, and Holly's going to interview both Dale and myself. We're doing this so you can get a chance to know each of us a little better, and we also had a heck of a lot of fun with Holly on this episode. Thank you again, Holly. We appreciate your time and your Hollyisms.
We connected, Adam and I, back, I don't know how many years ago, Adam, when, the moral injury article came out. It was just a sense that something was broken in the experience for frontline providers. And just like the orthopedic experience, I think both of us are inclined to fix things when they're broken, and not sort of accept that. So diagnosing and fixing, and, a lot of that was fixing the experience, the provider experience within the electronic health record.
Hey there, Efficiency Unlocked patrons and dorks. Nerds. Can we just say that this podcast, although named as NerdMDs, does not require you to be a nerd or an MD to listen and enjoy. Let's be inclusive, boys. Anyway, howdy to the dynamic nerd duo themselves, Doctors Adam Carewe and Dale Gold. I'm super jazzed to be joining the shenanigans today. My name is Holly Escudero, and I've known these amigos for about, was 5 years or so, maybe a little bit longer, some change. And I've partnered with them on various projects. I myself am not a physician, but have very much enjoyed learning from them and enjoying playing around with antics and actually producing some pretty rad products along the way. I've always been in operations and leadership, constantly working towards goals on how to work smarter, not harder. And after I discovered these two amazing fellas, we were able to make some miracles happen and laugh a lot in the process. So today, my friends, I'm honored to be hosting so I can ask them a ton of questions and hopefully make you laugh a little bit and get to know them as people, not just interviewers. I'm going to be turning the tables a bit and interviewing them about their journey through nerddom and taking opportunities to show you how fun these two are. So, okie dokie. Should we get this party started, guys?
That sounds fun.
You don't sound convincing, Adam.
No, I was honestly staring at Dale, and I thought his screen was frozen because he wasn't saying anything.
Is she going? No, we're very excited to have you, and excited to talk about this.
Yeah, agree.
I'm expecting Adam to go first. That's why I'm waiting.
Shocking. You want Adam to talk first?
Yeah. Okay, there's no problem with me talking. Yeah.
Yeah. That happens. All right. First off, friends, tell me how you got into this whole medicine gig. Like, was it all about the bunion on your grandmother's toe that, desperately wanted to fix? Or was it some hottie that you followed around in science class? Tell me what inspired you to become such nerdy MDs.
All right. In normal fashion, I guess I'll start this one first. No, so for me, I didn't go into medicine or start thinking about medicine until I was actually already started in graduate school. So throughout college, I took a path of kind of exercise physiology and sports medicine, but not in the sense of medical. And I really liked that. I really liked the nutrition and exercise component. And it was something that I could learn in college and help myself, as an athlete in basketball. And, it was in San Diego, where I was in grad school, and one of my mentors there in cardiac rehab, she was the one who kind of planted the seed for me. It was like halfway through my, I think it was unpaid. Yeah, I think it was a free internship that I worked for a summer as a grad student. And she just took me aside and she said, hey, it seems like you really like this, and you like being with patients, and you like interacting, and you like coming up with exercise programs for them. she's like, have you ever thought to be a physician or a physician assistant or a nurse practitioner? And honestly, at that moment in my life, I had never contemplated it. So that was in probably 2001 summer. And
so you were getting your master's in exercise physiology. Is that what the grad school was?
Correct. Yeah. I knew I wanted to do that, but I didn't know what aspect of exercise physiology I wanted to do. So I started that program thinking, oh, I got 2 years now to figure it out before I have to turn in this thesis and start working kind of big boy. So yeah, she was the one that planted the seed. Her name is Mary, and she's retired now, but she was an exercise physiologist. Yeah, Mary, hopefully you're listening. No, I actually keep in contact with her. She's like retired now. So she drives around in her motorhome with her husband and posts all these cool pictures across the U.S.
Good.
Makes me jealous.
Podcast to listen to.
Yeah, that's true. Lots of road time. But yeah, that's what planted the seed. So then I had to go back and take organic chemistry, physics, all these things as a graduate student with a bunch of freshmen. So it was fun. But yeah, that's how I got in.
Was there any time along the way that you were like, big mistake, I should have played exercise physiologist? What was I thinking?
Yeah. That's a good question. I think, probably not leading into medical school, but I'd say in medical school, especially the first year when I got into biochemistry, I was like, this is horrid. And to this day, I still think it's horrid, even though it has great medical application. It wasn't taught that way in medical school. It was taught just to memorize this chemical goes to this and this and this. And it was a bunch of diagrams, and I had no application to it. And it was tough for me.
Dale Gold, if you're on, tell me about your journey. Was it the
I think on a lot of these, there's some accidental parallels. I would say the first one is, my first interest was actually orthopedics and sports medicine is sort of what I was interested in.
Oh.
And on that path, it sort of evolved into family medicine once I figured out, I tried enough surgeries and realized that maybe standing in the operating room wasn't for me. And I got to work with some really cool family medicine, sports medicine doctors to understand that, they were doing a lot of the diagnosing and a lot of the work in the office. And I was like, this is a really cool experience where you can do family medicine and also see, this type of population where, you're helping people stay active and getting them back and really what's making their life and, their interests and really making a difference in that way. And that's sort of where I started. But obviously I'm a family medicine physician. So as I did that, and I did a ton of rotations in sports medicine, we're in Colorado. So I spent at least 3 months during my residency up at the ski mountains, diagnosing ski injuries. And, that was honestly a whole lot of fun. And at the end of that, I think that I realized that I wanted to do a lot of the sports medicine in my family medicine practice and not necessarily, only do that. I think for my interest and personality, sort of having the full variety of family medicine. And, I think where some of those overlaps are with informatics and family medicine and even Adam's, chemistry example is sort of we learn in medical school to take these really complex, abstract things and be able to make some sense of them. And I think in family medicine, I got a lot of joy out of taking these complicated disease states and being able to explain them in a way that a patient can understand. And, helping as a teacher and, as a advisor to my patients to help them understand how to take care of themselves. That's a lot of, what I liked about informatics is taking really complex, like Adam said, diagrams. They're different types of diagrams that Holly's really familiar with on workflows and things that us as physicians don't really understand. But taking those complexities of technology and healthcare and explaining them to docs and to clinicians and, vice versa, explaining medicine to some of the IT folks that are really passionate about what they do, but may, need some help connecting some of the obscure details they're working on to, how they're really helping all of our patients.
Or to, lowly administrators who just do not understand. How do you connect these dots with this workflow? Yeah, I can attest you're very good at explaining those things. So working up in the mountains, I never heard about that story. Which mountain did you work at, or was it multiple?
Yeah, a lot of the residencies in Colorado all have their affiliations. I went to Swedish. family medicine, and we worked at Keystone and Breckenridge, so rotated between the two.
Are there
but
any
a lot of fun.
super gnarly injuries that like stuck out that you were like literally or figuratively stuck out that you're like, oh, this is super rad. I could do this for the rest of my life. Deal with this gore.
Nothing super, gore rad, but but it's amazing. I mean, you're seeing a lot of those things all day long that they can become, pretty consistent. A lot of serious trauma, people skiing into trees, being evacuated down to Denver. I think for me and probably for Adam too, just the sports medicine aspect of being able to diagnose somebody with your hands and know exactly which ligament or which injury they have and give such a great prognosis without an MRI or anything fancy. But, you can really, help them get on their path, just by using your skills that you've learned as a doctor. So it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, I remember that. It's funny when Dale just introduced all that story, I'd never actually heard that about the orthopedics and I don't know if he's heard me ever tell the story that it was exactly the same for me. So in family medicine, we know each other pretty well, but we actually didn't know that story. But I just wanted to say, my family medicine program did very similar to what Dale's did, but we were at Winter Park. That was our hub. And I'll just say that month up there was, I think, the most valuable month that I had, even though I don't reset bones and I don't put casts on like now routinely at all. But it was like such high yield, cause you had to see somebody coming in, you had to truly assess them. How serious is this? And yeah, I mean, there was a lot of crazy stuff that happened up there.
I have actually used the ER or urgent care, I don't know what it is, at the bottom of Winter Park. On occasion when I broke my arm a couple years ago. Super grateful for that facility.
Yeah, no, it's super. It's all I think family medicine physicians that still staff it as attendings, and so, but they're those family docs that were like, I want to be an ER doc, a family doc. I want to deliver babies. I want to do this and that. Yeah, they're like absolute jack of all trades, and I mean the amount of trauma that came in is it was eye opening.
It is interesting that you're both like talking about how, you really, they started off your career in these situations where you're you didn't have access necessarily to these schmancy technology opportunities to really assess your patients and boom, do things more efficiently or whatever. And then now somehow you've taken this like wrong turn in Albuquerque and now you're doing all the things efficiently without, necessarily having to de-schmancy it up. So I guess that kind of brings me to my next question. Help me to connect the dots on how you made this leap into this podcast and so much interest in efficiency. Dale, you want to go first this time?
I mean, I think that the transition is, as you're, becoming a family medicine physician or a primary care physician on the front lines, this is a big piece of your day. I think we connected, Adam and I, back, I don't know how many years ago, Adam, when, the moral injury article came out. And, it was just a sense that something was broken in the experience for frontline providers. And just like the orthopedic experience, I think both of us are inclined to fix things when they're broken and not sort of accept that. So diagnosing and fixing, and, a lot of that was fixing the experience, the provider experience within the electronic health record. And that's really what got us started on this journey. I wanted to figure it out for myself. And I met Adam in one of the classes that he was teaching on informatics. And, I was just in there learning to try to figure out, how do I take better care of my patients? How do I become more efficient in my own day as a new doctor? And trying to learn, this EHR thing to make it work in a way that it's supposed to. It's supposed to give me those clues to take care of patients and help me do it efficiently and in a high quality way. And, from there, it sort of progressed as you pull on that thread. You find different areas that need fixing the higher up you go. And I think that, skipping ahead, because I think Adam will fill in some of the gaps, but I think when it comes to this podcast, one of those things to fix is, when you're a a busy executive in this field, you can't explore every technology that exists. It becomes very difficult and very demanding of your time to take an intro meeting with every single company. So the thought is, if we're going to be able to share some of these interesting innovators that are out there and interesting people that are doing the same kind of work that we're doing, hopefully that will be an efficiency unlocked for others, that they can learn more about these things in an efficient way in their car ride by listening to this podcast. And then I think that hopefully sort of the idea of crowdsourcing some of this, there'll be other things we can learn from others and help our efficiency. So this is just our kind of contribution to the community, I think. What would you fill in, Adam?
Yeah, no, you actually explained that really well. I was like thinking about it in a totally different direction.
I've always says, actually, like, I'm shocked, Dale. You never explain those things really well.
I mean, Dale's like, I always tell people, like, Dale is like the quiet, like, thinker that will come up with 1,000 amazing ideas. Not all of them will be slam dunks, but no, whenever he does talk, it's cool. It's cool to hear people. We don't talk like the way he just answered that question. We don't converse in that way. Like, it was so great when we met each other, back in the day. It's kind of like, move on. Let's go.
Let's having a bro moment.
Yeah, this is a little bit of a virtual hug fest. But no, I think, for me, I'd say, to your specific question, Holly, like, definitely the part that Dale explained is kind of pivotal in that process. But for me, I think it's been the realization that I like creating things. I like designing stuff. I like making websites. I like making graphics. I like making logos. And I've always just liked technology. Back in the days of my early childhood, my grandfather would always, he was really big on, he'd always have some sort of piece of technology. Granted, this was the 80s, so technology really sucked, but it was
like, check out this Walkman, Adam.
Oh yeah, he had a Walkman before anybody else. Like, truly, he would bring it home. Yeah, so he was a gadget guy back then. And so I think, kind of all of that culmination, including what Dale explained, as myself and him got into informatics, and we got into informatics before it was called informatics. And I think even a lot of people don't understand what informatics is too. But you think of informatics as like the glue between practicing clinical care, so whether it's physician, nurse, whatever, and the technology that like links that together. And so, but I think I think the culmination of it all was taking all that history, and then what Dale and I did together when we worked for the same organization with Holly for a while, and and then getting to a point where now we can actually think about this stuff too on like a bigger level. Like, I feel like you get so stuck in like the details and the swarm of the tyranny of the urgent but now you can actually think of it as a little bit bigger picture. And yeah, to Dale's point, it's a way to share these things, both in healthcare. But I think for this podcast, we intentionally made the title, Efficiency Unlocked, because we didn't want it to be just inclusive to healthcare. And I think that's what Dale and I realized too. We were always chatting about, what are you doing in your smart home? Like, are you making it do this or that? And, or how do you automate your garage door or cameras around your house or whatever? And I think those are all those like little efficiencies that you can do for yourself. And so I think that's how I think we ultimately landed at this. And we intended to start it about 6 months ago, but life gets in the way sometimes too. So it was on the back burner until this fall.
Did either of you it's interesting. I never had heard the story about Adam, Dale, you actually being in Adam's class. That's kind of cool. Did either of you feel inspired at all by any burnout, or was this all like pre-burnout, just anticipating, and because you're just so wicked jazzed about the idea of, technology and kind of connecting the dots, not only for yourselves, but for your friends in medicine or outside of medicine?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think Dale and I probably answer this pretty similarly, but now that I said that, he'll probably answer it differently. But no, I think
yeah, it seems like you guys are surprising yourselves. That's kind
no.
of cool.
This is like it's like a therapy session for friends that haven't actually talked about some of these things. No, I think it is. I think what I realized pretty early, and Dale did too, that as a physician, you can be effective, right? You have your panel of patients, you have the people that you work with, the nurses, the other providers that you work with, and you can be effective at that level. And I think what informatics does, particularly I'll just say in medicine, is like it allows you to be more effective. Like your scale of effectiveness can go way up, and because if you can make just something small, like in the electronic health record, faster, easier, and more intuitive, you're going to drive, more efficient care, but you're going to drive more quality care, better experience for the physician and the patient. And so I think that's like what, I don't know. I didn't think this probably 5-6 years ago, but I think now when I look back, that was probably the driving force of all this, because you can be more effective at scale when you're like a technologist also trying to help healthcare.
I agree. I think we'll answer it pretty similarly. I would just say to the original question that, I think as I got into it and still to this day, I love the work that we do, being able to advocate as a physician inside, IT companies or technology innovation and really speaking for the voice, of those many who are seeing patients that are, so crucial to our own healthcare, our families, friends. These people are so important. So I think that I love doing it because I love designing great tools for them. And I know that giving your providers excellent tools will be better patient care for all of our patients. But I think that the extra piece is like that fuel that I think keeps me going at a leadership level of knowing how important the work that we do is. So, I definitely love it. And that's why I got into it for myself, is just because I really enjoy this work. Like, this is the work that doesn't feel like work. But on those hard days, I think that fuel of knowing that, there's so few voices in this small field that, being able to speak for those that are busy taking care of our loved ones is just so important. And it gives you that extra drive.
So you guys obviously have like mega passion in this area, both in technology as well as medicine. And I wouldn't necessarily say that all of it comes easy to you, but you're, because you have that innate passion, you just have this extensive curiosity and you're connecting these dots. I've seen it in action, but I think it'd probably be good for you to kind of share with our podcasters about, how you make all of the things that you work on adaptable or attainable or, relevant to docs who are maybe a little less jazzed about informatics or technology in general. Like one of the things you mentioned, Adam, is, creating tools that, make sense with the workflow when you're considering how to make the whole group, thousands and thousands of physicians, more efficient and speak to them on their level. Like it's a pretty big lift, a big thing to kind of deal with and to really feel like you're successful in that way and kind of helping a huge enterprise and all of these docs who have different ways of practicing and functioning. Have you ever been discouraged in that way? What are your tactics? Like, what are your thoughts around that whole gig?
Yeah, no, I think like at kind of like a macro level or meta level, even I think, it boils down to, the mantra of like people, process, and then technology. And I always say it in that order. And I always say then at the end, because I think a lot of people jump to like, oh, we just need like IT to fix this problem and it's going to make everything better. And I don't think that's always necessarily the right answer. And actually it rarely is. I think, and I think that middle process is the part that I think requires the most hard work, because that actually makes you have to rethink things and try and think of things in different ways. And I think that's the way, any clinician or anyone like yourself, Holly, that's worked on kind of the administrative professional side of healthcare, you're always trying to figure out those things too, those processes. And, but I think like, what ultimately is fun is like being able to then go, okay, this is like the ideal process we want. how do we make the tool really fit? And so I think that's like the general scheme of what I think, all informaticists or, technologists will do to help things. But I think like, a good example of like what, you specifically asked was, obviously we're about to ride this like AI wave of ambient, AI that is going to have people that are going to want it. And there's going to have people that don't want it. I would hazard to bet more people are going to want it once they see it. But, if we go back a few years ago when, just dictation was like kind of the standard. And, in our company, we switched from back-end transcription, where someone was just dictating into a microphone, recording went to someone else, they typed it up, and then it came back to that physician to sign off. We switched from that back end to a front end where you had to do it live, like right in your notes, right after your surgery, right after your procedure. And, there was a fair amount of physicians who were very resistant. Like they felt like, our company was taking away, their ability to care for their patients.
No,
and,
I've never heard anybody say that.
Yeah. But, I think what it was is like, there's ways that you can win over those people. And I actually particularly like those challenges because, those are usually the people that are the loudest and they're the most vocal. But I think if you actually figure out like why they're upset, you can usually get to the root, and then you can give them something where they'll be like, holy cow. And, one of the examples, I won't name the name, but, when we were moving to one of these products, we had one of the vendors kind of solution experts like sit with this physician. And, that person, this person was so used to just dictating into a microphone and that would be it. And that was easy for them to finish. But she sat down with them and she's like, well, with this tool, we can make voice commands that you can do this and switch over to your image packs and automatically log you into this. And I mean, she showed him like these just, a couple like very simple things that he was doing, almost probably hundreds of times a day. And he was able to automate those with this new tool. And he literally became like the evangelist for this product for his entire department. Yeah. So that's like, I like those challenges because you get the loud, angry person and you turn it around.
Saltiest always become the sweetest. That's for sure.
Yeah. Saltiest sometimes get jobs too. I've heard that happen before too, where the squeaky, angry doc in the clinic, that's annoyed how things go. They ultimately get a job where they have to like, teach people how to do it the right way. So there's like, those stories too.
That time you were a salty Mino Bacino, now you get to deal with all the salty Mino Bacinos yourself. So
correct.
It's engagement, it's good to have any kind of engagement, even if it's salty engagement. Having people engaged in the company's success are good people to engage in some work.
Yep.
True story. Yeah. Dale, any other nuggets about the salties? Getting them on board.
For the most part, I really reiterate what Adam said. I don't know that I could add much differently. I was thinking in the beginning as his analogy of the people, process, and technology. I think, the three of us, have that really good example of the inbox work we did together, where I think having that operational alignment, is really key early, and then involving the people doing the work in the design, I think is key. So in that project, we had, your assistance with the operational alignment, which was, so essential for that process piece. And we had people working that department involved in the design. And then we had the technology to fit that. So it wasn't putting any sort of technology on anything. It just was that co-design and alignment, I think is key to avoid that need to fix it on the back end.
Totally agree. Yeah, absolutely.
Very well said. I've heard recently, some comments taking what Dale just said to even the level of like just health technology in general and like startups. And, the recent comment was like, you can't call yourself like a health startup company unless you have someone that is a healthcare worker like at the helm or like in charge of that company, which is a little bit bold of a statement, but I think it goes to what Dale said. Like it's you have to have that mindset because otherwise you're just creating a technology company that's hoping to help healthcare. But I think that's, internally we did that, like the example, he shared about the in-basket stuff, which we could obviously talk more about. But think that's it's a good example.
For sure. Okay, so I think you're rad and stuff, but what do you think is the ultimate secret sauce that makes your perspective on NerdMD stand out? And I like a good story. I'm sure all of our friends listening like a good story. So any juicy ones that kind of shaped those views would be extra appreciated.
Juicy stories. Interesting. I don't know, Dale, do you have a good example right off the bat?
I mean, I think that a big key to the secret sauce is sort of how Adam described his, gadget forward nature, where he is always that bleeding edge tech adopter, where he's adopted something before the video is even out that it exists. So I think that the secret sauce is sort of combining that knowledge, sort of as we figure out how some of these general tech innovations are going to fit into just consumer culture and productivity in general. And then thinking about, how can these things be adopted into healthcare? I think that's probably a big piece of the sauce is taking that bleeding edge knowledge and thinking about, our busy physicians that, have their head down in their papers and don't have time to think. How can we think of, just those innovations that we use day in, day out on our phone to be effective in our work and family and kind of coordinate on teams? Why don't physicians have that? So I think that's sort of the piece is taking his early knowledge, of emerging tech, and how can we make those relatable to, just general productivity for busy, people working in any field or medicine. I don't have anything juicier than that, Adam. Did that spark any other ideas of things to talk about?
No, it definitely did. And I think I'm lacking some juice on this too, but I can...
I'm sure you guys, tell me about the conversation that you had when you were a beer or two in at a local brewery and you were like, let's start a podcast. We can share all the stuff and all of the different kind of things you were wanting to share, or, I could just see all of you getting more and more excited and chatting about it and throwing around ideas and stuff.
I think I remember more just the concept of NerdMDs more than the podcast. I think that, that started from, you're working in this field and, you probably have some good examples, Holly, of even leaving healthcare, like you were in, that just things, people are doing different things, different places, different ways. And, why didn't I know about it? So I think for us, or at least for me, I could think of, being at, talking to people in this field, doing the same work, and understanding how big the world was, I think was my first eye-opening moment. So just talking to our colleagues that do the very same type of informatics and are setting up the same programs. And it's sort of made us both scratch our head, people are solving these problems everywhere, but no one's talking to anyone because we're too busy to do so. So how can we, harness that crowd knowledge together and, all kind of advance and not reinvent the wheels. So I think that sort of at least birthed, the social network aspect about it. And I'm sure that without remembering, I'm sure Adam birthed the podcast aspect of it.
Sounds like something he'd want. He's like, how can I talk a little bit more today?
Yeah. How can I work that into
maybe
this?
just some of your early conversations, I guess, I think, having them and thinking others may want to listen to them as you met some interesting people. I don't know if that is how you thought of it.
I mean, I think, I think the NerdMD thing is interesting because, I think it's a cool story to share. Dale and I were sitting down, again, kind of thinking about, okay, we're doctors, we love helping in this technology space. Let's think of some catchy name, that we could use. And, most of the time we resort to searching the database for URLs that are available. Cause you don't want to go down a path of a really good idea if the URL is going to cost you $20K. So
Dang it.
Yeah. So we were again, like I mentioned before, Dale's a wizard
wait. You need to tell me what the initial URLs that you tried that got failed.
Oh gosh, we could probably pull those out of the archives, but
yeah, I'm gonna need those.
No, honestly, I think some might come up here, but we just tried several derivations, and then I think it was Dale actually. I think he typed this in, or maybe we said, oh, what about NerdMDs? And I was like, oh, there's no way. That's definitely taken. That name is too cool. And he typed it in. And he's like, no, GoDaddy says it's 99 cents for the first year. I was like, I was like, put it in the cart,
So
buy it. And so I bought that like super fast. So it's kind of like the story of like, we had kind of the brand and the mantra of like what we wanted about to embolize like what we do and the way we think before we had like really any kind of plan. But like Dale shared about like the social aspect, and we have like a little private group on LinkedIn, you know, where only physicians, informaticists we let join. We get all sorts of garbage that tries to join, and we're just like deny.
I'm pretty sure I was one of those garbage denied.
We
value everyone who's interested.
Yeah, we do, and we're trying to think of a way to spin NerdMD so we can actually like have another kind of forum, you know, that's we'll just say more inclusive to people that want to be in this health tech space.
And you had your personal reviewing, I think, that also spurred it when you were doing the tech dad stuff. And, you know, obviously we both know NerdWallet, you know, as a way to review things. Adam's a big Wirecutter fan. So I think that originally there was some thought like we're doing right now with the AI space of, you know, can we collate some of this knowledge and, you know, share it to the community? I think was maybe the original nidus of the name, but 100%, you know, it's hard to find any names available that are short. So finding one that applied to us and was short and available is probably as simple as it started. And then the rest of this evolved probably years later after just having a URL for a while.
Yeah. And it's funny because now, like when I make a new connection with someone, like even these folks that have been, you know, guests on the podcast already, or we've recorded, like one of the first things I usually say is, I love that NerdMDs thing. Like, what is it? And I'm like, well, it's actually not really anything, but you know, it's the name of, it's the sponsor of our podcast, which I don't know. Can you self-sponsor yourself? It seems like that seems okay.
We should get like mugs so that when you're interviewing people, you can be like,
oh yeah, we have some cool stuff that Dale and I are gonna we've had made. Can't share it yet, but yeah, keep on our.
It's a teaser.
Keep on our social. We'll post some photos a little bit later, maybe early 2024, particularly.
Look out!
Yeah.
So you guys didn't try like Adam and Dale rule.com or anything like that? Like that wasn't one of the options, seems like.
Yeah, I think we had like informaticsbuddies.com or something. It was a bunch of dumb names that were like, there's no way. Yeah, buddies. No, it's funny because like, I mean, Dale and I don't have like a marketing or brand background, but I think like, you know, if you can learn about that stuff enough, and we know by just what's out there, like how a catchy, very short name can be really powerful for a brand. And I think that was kind of the nidus for it, is like, you know, we said, oh, NerdMDs, that's easy to remember. It's short. It's kind of funny. You know, it's kind of like there's several of those brands out there that kind of have those names. It kind of makes you wonder though, like how a brand like Kleenex, like how did that even come about? That's like dumb. But now we call that, you know, if you blow your nose, with the Kleenex. Yeah, exactly.
Nobody takes tissues. Everyone
exactly. Just like you say Google when you search. I mean, there's all sorts of those examples. So yeah, that's
you don't say Yahoo when you search. That's weird.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
All right. Next question. You guys ready?
Yes. Bring it.
What is the funniest thing that's happened to you as you started out this journey, kind of juggling the doctoring, the podcasting, and the family-ing? I'm not sure if you shared this, like anything about your families, but both these guys have families that pretty young families that they're also juggling, and probably going to a ton of kids' sporting events and all kinds of fun stuff like that. So there's a lot going on in your lives. So tell me something interesting or funny that's happened as you're trying to figure out how to juggle it all and continue pushing forward with.
Yeah, I got a good
podcast.
one. Yeah, hopefully our wives aren't listening to this episode, even though I know my wife listens to this.
Will eventually.
No, I think funny. Yeah, so Dale and I, we're both married to a physician wives as well, and we both have 2 kids. But I think, you know, the funny thing I think with all of this is like, you know, when you're trying to create something like this, it does take a lot of conversation. Like, you can do it through text messaging or whatever, but it takes a lot of like bouncing ideas off and, going, oh, maybe we do it this way or this way. Or, even the logo for our podcast. That I don't know how many different versions I made, and Dale's like, nope, it needs to be bigger. The lock needs to look like this. Like
he's really good at vetoing.
Yeah. He's like, no, he's like, I look too fat. My microphone's too big. There's all sorts of things I think that were thrown around. So we tweaked and modified, but I'll be honest. I think now, like, the only thing that I think is a little bit comical is both of our wives at time have told us that we have to stop texting each other, at certain times, like, while we're eating dinner at night or on the weekend. So I frequently will get into one of our texts, back and forth. And then Dale's like, I literally have to stop texting because I can see my wife looking at me from the corner and I'm trying to secretly text down in my lap. So I don't know. I think that's a good one to share.
Yeah, I agree. It's just a balance.
Oh, sorry, Dale. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I just said I agree with Adam. I think that it's a balance to do all this with our busy lives, and I think that it's our efficiency that allows it even to happen. The fact that we can get so far just with a quick text question and know where to go from there. Mm-hmm. Like you, Holly, when wondering if this would be in person, it probably is surprising how little Adam and I see each other in person beyond like a lunch here and there. Like we get most of our stuff done with a quick text and we're on the same page and know where we're going with it. But I just think it's a hobby of ours. I think just ideation and, going back and forth on, a name or a picture and figuring it out together. It's just something that we just enjoy, separately from all this. It's just because we're just doing something that we like and it happened to turn into a podcast, like naturally, I guess. And, I think Adam just does have an eye for marketing. And, I think like he said, sometimes I'm confident in my opinion on, what's good or what will sell. But I know we're not interviewing you, Holly, but you can give a sense of, Adam created that site brand, in terms of like the physician training. And I think that was all his marketing prowess. What's your external point of view of that branding that he did really on his own shoulders?
I think that he has a pretty good eye for it too. It seems like he really enjoys it. Sometimes I tease him that like maybe he missed his calling because it seems like he spends a lot of time trying to figure out those things.
Maybe a little bit.
Why is this the first thing that you're working on for hours and hours? Shouldn't you be working on content? Even when we were doing the Investigate project, I remember having like a pretty exciting debate with maybe both of you about you two fighting about what the acronym should be. And I was like, why do we care? And you're like, because everyone is always going to remember this. And it was just like a pretty hardcore conversation. And but yeah, I think that it is important to kind of spend the time to hash that out. And I do think that Adam has a pretty good eye for it, or at least enjoys spending an inordinate amount of time on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of felt like you guys were speaking to my obituary right there for a second as I was listening in, but not to mention,
we'll save it for you.
Cool. No, it is. I lost my train of thought. So you make a joke and then you just like completely forget what you're going to say. Anyway, yeah, we can go on to the next question.
I have been trying to think of like, because I know you guys have like real cute bromance going on. Like, how can we make you a benefer kind of situation? And maybe like guru is one thing I've been kind of thinking about. I think that one has a pretty good ring to it. Maybe you could incorporate that into like the subtext of the NerdMD or something, Adam. Just some food for thought.
Yeah, I'll think of some sublines.
Like
I think some
is immediately like vetoing, so it might be a worthwhile venture.
I'm open to a fresh point of view on these things. I appreciate it, Holly.
Oh yeah, always good for a fresh perspective.
So I'm not sure. Do you guys do you listen to your episodes from the past, or you just like record and experience them and enjoy them, and then you move on with your life, or do you listen to them over and over again? And even if you haven't, what do you think is your favorite episode? Like the episode that made you go, what's amazing? What the farts? This is awesome. We are geniuses. We should never record another one because this is the most brilliant episode in history. And why?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is super early, so we don't have that many yet. Like, I think as of now, this recording, we have 4 released. But Yeah. I mean, I think, I guess what I'll say the one that I'm like most excited about, and I actually haven't shared this with Dale yet, but I'm going to interview my 12-year-old daughter about what she kind of thinks like the effects of artificial intelligence will be, for her life and how she uses it now, how she sees herself using it in the future. So I'll be honest, I think that one's going to be the coolest one yet, but there's, out of what's already recorded, I'd say there's the ones in this series for generative AI companies. I think the ones we've recorded already are great. And I think the ones that are on the schedule are going to be great also. So I don't know if I could pick a favorite, because then I would be giving favoritism to a commercial product, which I need to maintain my non-biased lens. But it's just they're really fun. I'll just say conceptually, it's really fun to like talk to these people and actually learn about them as a person, and just some of their likes and dislikes, and it's already just kind of opened connections. So I think that part has been such a great benefit to it. It's fun to turn from interviewing them on a podcast to now like having them in your phone, and you can text message, these CEOs, like a question that you have about something, or they'll text you randomly for a question. It's fun.
Dale, do you have any favorites, or are you going to dodge too?
It's early, and I think that this is our technical intro and kickoff, but I listen to all the ones that Adam's done. I think it's been fun and interesting, because these are all conversations, like I said, he's been having throughout the years, and I'll get updates on them, but to actually get to listen to them and meet the people, I think is really valuable to me. Will I keep listening to every single one like this one that we're both on? Maybe not, because I'm here listening to it, and I'm having the fun live.
I just realized too, I didn't even answer your question. You asked if I listen. Well, so, because we have this like super cool like production studio and staff that edits all of our podcasts. Just super kidding. Cool. We don't. It's me. But so like, because of that, I do have to listen to it. But what's kind of cool is that you actually can multitask when you're editing these, in the sense of like, you can be doing something else, and I can have it playing, and then, cognitively I can tell when there's like something that I need to piece out of it, or if there's like a good, soundbite where I'm like, oh, that's going to be a really good piece that I want to put at the front of the episode as like the teaser. Mm-hmm. So like, I can do that a little bit passively. But yeah, listening to your own self talk is probably one of the worst things to do. I think 100% of humans would agree with that comment. But yes, I have to listen to it many times, and sometimes lots and lots of times, like scroll back, play it again, tweak this. And
we've listened to the intro at least 1,000 times that you have some feedback against.
Definitely. Yeah. Holly doesn't like our AI guy.
We get some fresh ears. Who knows?
That's true.
Have you had any like golden nuggets from any of their episodes that you've been like, this is changing my world, I'm gonna play this game from now on, or this is how it's going to shift my mindset, like anything like that?
So far, again, we only have like 4 live, but like one of the ones I recorded, there's a quote that's in that one from the CEO of the company Abridge, and he's sharing a text message that he got from another CMIO that is live with their product, at their facility. And I'm paraphrasing because I don't have the quote right in front of me, but he specifically shares that, this CMIO is getting text messages of like affirmation from all of his doctors who are using this already. And, it's not just like saving their practice of medicine and burnout, but it's actually like saving marriages and mental health. Like he specifically quoted that. And I like, man, that out of the most impactful kind of soundbite so far. Definitely that one.
Super powerful for sure.
Yeah.
I'll say when we did our project for like the in-basket jazz, I'm sure you guys did too, but I got a lot of emails and text messages along the same lines, just like so rewarding in and of itself. And I know all 3 of us were just terrified about it going live. And so it became such a successful venture. And even to this day, I'll get random text messages from docs that I don't work with anymore, but did before about, what they came back to after vacation, and it was glorious and just so validating. So
it is. It's such a good like poster child example, of like internal kind of clinical operations and informatics working together. And I think it's even more exciting now because of the, AI wave that's upon us. Like I think of so many things that are going to be coming in pretty short order that are actually going to make that program or just the ability to handle things in the in-basket even faster, and I think there's promise that you'll be able to do twice as much of the volume in the same amount of time, or you could look at it as like you could handle, more people or cover more people. And I know we haven't explained obviously the nuts and bolts of this program, but I think it, artificial intelligence is going to significantly enhance this process and make it a much faster horse than it is right now.
Yeah, I was thinking about that a lot when I was listening to your episode 4, like how that could really be incorporated into the in-basket. Jazz, this one's for Dale. So if you got your magic 8 ball, what do you foresee happening in medicine as a result of some of this tech awesomeness that you've been discovering? What do you think it's going to look like in the next 3, 5, 10 years?
I think that as the first series of episodes on this ambient AI documentation piece, I think definitely in that 3 to 5, if not sooner, that this being standard offering that healthcare organizations and provider groups will offer their providers as employment, as a benefit, just like we have microphones for front-end dictation now. I think that in that time frame, it's going to be standard practice that if you want one of these tools to improve documentation, I think it's so needed, such a gap that it's people want it. And I think just figuring out, how do you roll these things out? We're rolling out our own pilot of this technology now, and the appetite to try it and be involved in it is just so high. Our pilot goal is to figure out, who are the real benefit group going to be, and trying to figure that out so we understand the scale of it. But I think that there's going to be a point where this is, basic offerings to a new provider. As they interview, they'll want to know, do you have it or do you not, or who do you use for this? But, using it's going to be standard. So I think that, I'm listening as a fan of the podcast myself, as Adam interviews all these people, because it's, sort of like I alluded to before, it's impossible to, in any area of solving a problem in healthcare IT, to know all of your choices and understand, where to align. Because I think as we think beyond that first step, where are all these companies going? Because as you align with someone, the change management, to get people to switch and do different things is big. It's not small to get everyone to stop using something they like and switch to something different. Mm-hmm. So making sure that, where are all these divisions of these companies going to be in 10 years so that, your company's aligned with, similar missions, similar goals. And I think we do need a separate episode to talk about the inbox, because I think the inbox is sort of like, makes me wonder of all the work that we did with humans to kind of solve some of this problem. But, there are ways to solve it, I think, with technology, but I think there's such a gap that there's not even a virtual in-basket scribe that can help your inbox today. So technology will have even a bigger impact if we can figure out, once we've figured out documentation and review, how do we figure out which of those things are in-basket? And I hope that's one of the next things to solve, because I know that we've all heard that from providers is such a burnout piece.
Mm-hmm. Mega.
I'm sure Adam would have like real futurist ideas too for 5 to 10 that are much more bold than mine.
He's trying to hold back. You don't have to hold back, Adam. What are your ideas?
Oh no, I'm not holding back. No, I mean, I think, Dale's spot on. I think, the thing that was like most moving to me was just in the past week, there was an article written by a venture capitalist who's young, and those are my dogs. You just heard that bark.
Oh, what are their names?
It was probably a UPS driver that just showed up. Yeah. But anyway, the story of this venture capitalist, he wrote this essay, and he wrote the essay that said like the AI problem is the faster horse phenomenon that we're seeing. And I think what Dale just explained is the faster horse, which is critically important and very cool. There's so many things that we can make faster and more efficient. But the point of his essay was something that I've been thinking about a lot, but just hadn't kind of put it in that conceptual framework, where we shouldn't necessarily only be thinking about how to make the horse faster, but we should be able to figure out how to make the car. So if we go back to that period of time where horses were running the streets and pooping everywhere and, doing nasty things, and, they were trying to make the horse better. And then there was a carriage, and then that carriage got better. And then someone came along and was like, oh, let's put a motor inside this coach, and call it a motor coach. It's like, I think we just have to start thinking about like, not only just making the in-basket better, but how do we actually eliminate the in-basket? Like, can we actually eliminate email? I think there's lots of tools out there, Slack and commenting directly on documents and collaborating in those ways is trying to eliminate email. So I don't know. That's the bigger picture thing that Dale alluded to. That's the way I would kind of see the future looking.
Great answers. For the future docs, nerds, and any lowly administrative people tuning in, what's your nerdiest advice for riding the tech wave in medicine, or even in general?
Yeah, I think, what's fascinating about generations and, the young ones, so to speak, that are coming behind you, is they like adopt these things so fast, and it just becomes second nature. My kids don't know what a TV was like before it was, a quarter inch thick. Like
streaming.
That wasn't streaming. Yeah. Like, I share this story, and probably my daughter would talk about this too when I interview her, but, for her 12-year-old birthday, she asked, for records. Like, she wants records, like actual circular vinyl records. And I'm like, man, it's funny. So I think like as generations come along, they're inherently like more nerdy, and they reach that nerd status like way quicker, and it just becomes kind of obvious. So I don't know. I'm like inspired by the younger docs. I mean, Dale and I think would still consider ourselves young, but we're more, I guess, middle-aged now for career-wise. And it's really cool, like the young physicians that are behind, younger than us coming in, that they just jump in and they like get things and they already understand it. So I think you have to like constantly be shifting your assumptions of what the people coming behind you actually know and can do, because they can actually do a lot more, I think, than you think. And they've already thought about these things that are, coming to us at a later time.
Such a good
point. It would be great at some point if, NerdMDs goes away based on that, right? Like at some point, it wouldn't stand out to have, such a native, use of technology for patients and docs that it's not something that needs this, how do you convince or work or make it better? Like if it just works, then that's just how we, in the future have a better way of taking care of patients. So go ahead.
No, I thought you were done. Keep going.
I was just answering, how do, people stay up with it, like that piece of the question. And, I think it's tricky. I think that Adam keeps up with it really well, and I keep up with Adam because he's able to read every article that comes out and keep up with everything. So I think that following NerdMDs and, following our accounts is probably a good way. And I think I've always enjoyed going to conferences and, connecting with people and seeing what people are working on and seeing what the new things are and, making your own opinions on, what's going to work or what's not. And, and bringing those back to your organizations and people and, trying to innovate and pilot things.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe you won't be needed. Maybe the NerdMDs won't be a thing anymore. You guys have to brand oldie moldy MDs or something like that. You better go and make sure nobody takes that URL.
I tell you, my hip feels like oldie moldy NerdMD right now. That thing's sore as it can be. Anyway.
Oh, my sciatica.
That's Holly pretending like she's a doctor. That was actually pretty funny. You did say sciatic correctly, which is cool. Most people don't.
Yeah, the other day in our text, though, I was saying uteruses, uteri. Which one is it? I got to figure it out. Good old Google.
It's hard. Those Latin plural words get real crazy quick.
Can't. Yep. Those are the end of my like real questions, but I know you always like pepper people with funny questions at the end of your interviews. So I'm wondering if you guys want a couple of those.
Yeah, that'd be fine. Unless you want us to ask you those questions.
No, well, that's not. Dale's like, yeah.
Dale's nodding away. Yes.
Well, I just know that we have such an exclusive guest, hosting today that it'd be a shame not to learn more from you, but you're the host.
I know. I'm the host. I'm also today. And I'll open to questions if you have them. But what about this car question you always ask? So what's your dream car? It could be something made up like a little scooter or something. Like, which one would you do?
It's funny because I think like I get a lot of like text messages from my family and friends that are listening to the shows, and like that's the ones that aren't medical, they'll be like, I love that question about the car. He's like, I know you're gonna ask it, and it makes me keep wanting to like listen to the whole episode, even though I don't know what you guys are talking about most of the time. But yeah, I mean, it's probably no surprise. I mean, if you follow any of my other blogging in the consumer world, I think I've been infatuated with electric vehicles for a long time. I convinced my wife that I should get an electric scooter, like one that's street legal, like not a little kick scooter, a long time ago. And it was like a total piece of crap. And it only got like 30 miles on the charge, but I could ride it, to the hospital and back and try and not get myself killed on the road. But I don't know. I think I'm just, I just love that bleeding edge in automobile. But I think I particularly love the guys now and girls that are taking old cars and making them electric. So like doing a full kind of conversion where it still looks like the old historic, Porsche or muscle car or pickup truck, but underneath it is, a battery and amazing, fast, fun motors, that don't spew any gas or fumes. So I dream to have one of those like really nice kind of showpiece cars, but that's also an EV in the future.
Dr. Gold, what about you? Are you car-y?
Yeah.
Remember?
No, I'm not a big car person. So that's one of those questions that Adam invented, but I don't have a great answer for it. It's not something I fantasize about or think too much about.
A Malibu.
A Buick. They do make Buicks still, don't they? Yeah, they do.
Oh, yeah. Apparently they park themselves and stuff.
Oh, wow. Holly, you're good. You watch way too much TV.
My favorite part of those commercials is, that's not a Buick.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to make an ad campaign, like at least make fun of yourself, like that you used to be like the old fuddy-duddy. My grandma had a Buick. She had a big one, like one of those ones that like... Sure.
Adam just called you a fuddy-duddy, Dale, just so you know.
Oh, did I say that?
I'm sure you caught that, yeah.
Oh, maybe I did. Maybe it was
Sorry, and he was comparing you to his grandma. Keep talking about your grandma. What were you saying?
As long as we can use the quote of Holly about a Buick for the intro, that would be perfect.
Oh, yeah. That will definitely be the teaser for the entire episode. And people will listen all the way to this point to actually understand the context of where it came from.
This is you. She cannot be a doctor. All right. This one you must answer other than the Buick situation. Thanksgiving is upon us. I'm not sure when this episode's going to release or what, but we're recording it right before Thanksgiving. What is your favorite dish for Thanksgiving? What do you pick out on?
That's a good question.
And sub-question, are you a food separator and nothing can touch? Or do you like mix it up and everything can play nice together?
Interesting. Okay, I'll answer the second one first for me, be brief. So I like on Thanksgiving, I like to separate things, but I don't mind if they touch too much. But post Thanksgiving, I like just like making like layers of stuff, like all the traditional, mashed potatoes, some sort of stuffing, gravy, cranberry, slam that on a piece of bread or toast or something, and then just eat it, kind of all in one, with a fork and knife probably. Yeah. But no, I think, like obviously I like just the traditional stuff because when do you make stuffing? I don't know if I ever make like some sort of bread stuffing outside of Thanksgiving or maybe Christmas, but, there's a recipe that my wife's family has, and, it's called green glop. And I said that right. It's called green glop. And it's a Jell-O product from my wife's grandma. And she made
Is it like National Lampoons where it's like leaking out of the present, like that kind of deal?
It's actually pretty close. I'll just give you the general ingredients. It's based out of Jell-O, applesauce, I think 7-Up, and it's always green Jell-O too, obviously for the name, but it's actually really good. So it's like a Jell-O that has a little bit of texture of the applesauce in it with like very sweet kind of lemon lime, flavor to it. And my kids, they love it. Yeah. You want to try it?
Maybe. Green glop. If you're listening, we're looking for sponsors.
Do you have before you have the glop?
For adults, there's usually plenty in our house, but yeah,
so you may not actually have. Okay.
But I'll tell you, the kids usually have a larger proportion of green glop to anything else on their plate. So, it's technically a fruit, it has applesauce, so we say, it's healthy. Go ahead and have at it.
All right, Dale Gold, you're up.
And we were over for Thanksgiving last year, so I can attest to that. That is served. For me, I think apple pie, because that's, a good excuse to get that served. And that's one of my favorites. I didn't even know the people with.
Warm or cold?
Oh, also good question.
Neutral. Warm the first day and then cold the rest of the week.
Oh, I like that. That's good. Change it up for leftovers.
Strong answer.
Yeah, agree.
And I didn't know that there wasn't even a thing about touching or not touching. So I guess I don't care if I've never even thought about that. Let it all touch. You're
a mixer, a toucher. That's probably bad. Maybe you should cut that part.
Yeah, that sounded like an inappropriate comment. Did we just get a Holly snort too? I think we did. That's definitely going in the soundbite.
No, that was a bad one. All right, we're going to move on to question number 3. Dale Gold, you go first on this one. If you were to win the lottery, the mega lottery, like when it gets to the billion, what would be the first thing you would buy? That would be like a mega purchase.
I think the first mega purchase would be...
Your job. Would you not work anymore? So always sub question. Sorry.
Yeah, first purchase, I'd pay off my loans. That's not a mega purchase, but that is just such a ball and chain that if I could get rid of that, I think that in terms of your next question, what would you do next? I think that would free me for a lot more creativity and, thought to do more things like that. Travel, work on this, work remotely. That's what I think I would do right away. Pay those off and be a little bit more free to be more creative.
So you'd still work. You wouldn't feel like a bum.
I would work, but, I think that, I'd do more of this type of work, more of the informatics and innovation type work. And like I said, I still love what I do. So I think you wouldn't have to, but I wouldn't mind removing that barrier that I have to work versus I want to work. I think is a mindset change. I think that making that big payoff would make me feel like.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, totally agree. Adam?
Yeah, I don't know if I'd have one thing. It's funny because my kids just showed me this thing. There's a website you can go to called like Spend Bill Gates Money. And it you launch it and it just has literally like this multi-billion-dollar number at the top. And then there's all these like items. It's like a shopping cart. And you can buy stuff, from like ranging from Netflix subscriptions to cruise ships, I think is like one of the more expensive ones. And it's so funny because as you start clicking these things, it's like the amount of money doesn't budge, because it's like so much more. So that's on a bigger scale than a billion that you said, but a billion is a lot too. I mean, I think the way Dale described it is probably very similar to me. I mean, I would want, in the same way where I think we talked about like how informatics allows you to be more impactful, to a larger group of physicians, or wherever you're working. I think, if I had just a ton of that money to use for good purpose, I would want to use it to make a bigger impact on healthcare, or bigger healthcare. I mean, you could say even bigger than that on just humanity, but I think I would do it that way. So I would want to be a part of helping others with really good ideas, take their concept to the next level. So that's what I would do.
Look at you, wholesome souls. I love it.
Well,
nice.
I wouldn't say it's too wholesome. I mean, when you invest in those things, you actually make even more money. So there would be some personal gains, but no, I do think it would be for the reasons like Dale said, like where you'd be making the choice to do that rather than having to do it, so you can pay your mortgage.
Well, hopefully you wouldn't have a mortgage if you had $1 billion, but yes.
True.
Yeah.
Very true.
Is there a toy, Adam, that you haven't bought yet that you have your eye on? I know it's a hard question because as soon as something's released, you already have it. But is there one thing that you haven't pulled the trigger on, but it's a really new gadget?
I mean, it depends on how much you're thinking like this thing costs.
You must be really hard to shop for.
Oh yeah, my wife said I'm the worst one because she goes to buy something for me, and then 2 days later it shows up on our porch because I already bought it.
Do you have a cat, Adam?
We do have a cat. Yeah.
Do you have like one? I keep seeing like these ads for like those smart litter boxes, and I keep thinking of you.
Oh yeah, I definitely have one of those. I have the second generation.
It was the first Kickstarter purchaser of that.
A text message, and it's like,
yeah,
Mr. Herbert has pooped. It's time to clean it up or something.
No, I just got a push notification this morning. It said the laser measuring device that measures like the waste or the litter level is slightly dusty, and I need to go clean my laser level like lenses. Yeah, so it's helpful. Yeah, no, I love Kickstarter because I think like such cool ideas are on there. So I generally have a queue of things that I'm like backing, knowing in all honestly, like some of them could go bankrupt, but it's almost like my way to do like little, angel investing, even though it's like such a small amount, like where, it'll get a cool product out of the end of it if it comes to fruition. But if it doesn't, it's at least helping this company, try to produce something.
That's so cool. I love that.
It'd be cooler if I had $1 billion, but
yeah. Which one is the one that you hope is successful so you get a freebie?
Yeah, there was like a little flurry. I mean, honestly, the coolest one that I just most recently backed, which to be honest, my kids are probably even more excited than me. It's this thing called the Polycade. So it's an arcade kind of box that looks like super retro and cool, but it mounts on your wall and it has a computer in it that can like run the emulators for all the historic games, that have been out. Mm-hmm. And it has like swappable, arcade buttons depending on the game that you're playing, so you can like swap one out that swaps in like the little scroll ball, if you're going to play like a golf game or a Centipede or something. But I think that one's like really cool. I think Frogger. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be, we'll definitely have it in our house when it arrives. And I think it's actually a real product. So I have pretty good confidence it'll come to fruition. Cause they built a few of the prototypes already. So I'm looking forward to that. And so are my kiddos.
Sick, dude. Do you have any questions you want to ask Dale since he went rogue and asked you a question?
He did. He totally did. Threw me off my, no, I guess, I ask everyone on the podcast, like what is something that they worry about in the future, from a containment standpoint, and I'll say, you can't say AI as the answer to make it a little harder for you. But, do you have something that you think about, like from a technology physician lens that you're worried about, or it could be just any technology in general?
Yeah, the one thing I worry about a little bit, which I think, goes against some of the things that I wish with, making the experience so convenient and, how can me as a patient, get the care I need in a convenient way. But I also know that like balancing convenient care with, we don't want to necessarily make a system that plucks all of the easy stuff and leaves, our primary care doctors, for example, with only the most complicated patients and all of the easy things are gone. So I think that, how do we co-develop a world where like convenience, and complicated can both be innovated? I think that the first wave maybe is this convenience wave because it's probably the easiest to turn into ones and zeros. But knowing a complicated patient with multiple medical conditions and hospital visits and multiple medical records, that's a scarier technological challenge. So I'd be scared that we don't attack that as something to solve. But I'm hopeful that, we don't skip that and we can make sure that we try to do innovation for that important piece of care.
I love that. Yeah, it's almost like the containment of convenience could just get so convenient that it's, as easy as, ordering DoorDash on your phone and having the food show up. And that's not a really good analogy to healthcare, but it leaves behind. Maybe it's the mom and pop shop that can't like participate in DoorDash or something. Maybe that's the example. But no, that's cool. I agree with that wholeheartedly.
All right, friends, that's all I got. Thank you so much for letting me come and play, drill you with all kinds of fun questions. I'm super jazzed about this podcast.
It was awesome, Holly.
Hang out with you a little bit.
Yeah, I know. We haven't actually hung out with you. We're going to lunch, I think, next Monday though. So, right. That's still on the books.
Monday.
Yeah.
Dale, you can come if you'd like.
Yeah. Dale was invited, but he declined the invite.
What?
Yeah,
Lame sauce.
We're going to Florida for Thanksgiving week.
Yeah.
Florida? Why?
Why don't you guys come?
Florida. I like how you say that. Florida.
Don't tell me you're going to Disney World. It burned down.
Yeah, are you? I actually didn't know you were going to Florida.
Missed that text message. Are you going to Disney World or just the beach or something else?
Just visiting friends. I believe we'll go to the beach.
I believe we'll go to the beach and feel the sun.
Evasive. I love it.
Yeah, he's like, stop talking about personal things. He's like, Adam, you better cut this out of the show. Maybe that will be the soundbite. Right. We're going to Florida. We may go to the beach.
We may fly.
No, anyway, no, Holly, we super appreciate you taking time out of your weekend to interview with us. I could potentially see you being a guest because I think you do bring a cool flavor of Hollyisms and everything else. I don't feel like we got like the full Hollyism like experience on this episode, but there was bits and pieces. So I think there'll be more in the future.
Can we get the most Holly summary of this episode?
The most. Oh my gosh, there's some fresh right there. Oh my gosh. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a lot of press.
Yeah.
Well, I would say it can be cut, but Adam's not going to cut it, so there's always a risk of that.
He's just going to embarrass me for sure.
Constantly rolling.
No, I go when there's too much pressure.
No, don't worry about it. I'll cut it. I'm not cutting Dale's though. Just fair. No, it was cool.
Evil sauce.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much. Really always enjoy hanging out with you guys.
Thank you, Holly.
Thank you.
And yeah, thanks, Dale. I appreciate you actually being a guest on your own podcast. It's fun. And we'll have more episodes of just Dale and I talking about, what we have on the show too, so as like additional commentary. So the shows don't last for 2 hours of us just chit-chatting. We look forward to that too.
Well, hearts and farts, guys.
There you go. See, that was the summary of the episode right there. Awesome. Take care, you guys.
That's what you're looking for.
Yeah. Have a good weekend. Happy Thanksgiving. Cheers.
Bye.
Thanksgiving.
All right. Bye. Thank you for listening to Efficiency Unlocked, Nerd Tested, MD Approved, a NerdMDs podcast by Drs. Adam Carewe and Dale Gold.